The Full Moon's Curse. Chapter 1. Shadows in the Dark. The night had fallen thick and heavy over the desolate highways James Winchester had come to know so well. His Peterbilt 389 rumbled down the narrow road, the hum of its massive engine the only sound breaking the suffocating silence of the night. The moon, swollen and full, hung in the sky like an unblinking eye, casting long shadows over the winding asphalt ahead. It was a moon he had come to dread, a reminder of the curse that clung to him like a dark, malignant cloud. James shifted in his seat, his hands gripping the wheel tightly, the leather beneath his fingers worn and cracked from years of use. His beard, now streaked with more gray than black, brushed against the collar of his flannel shirt. He hadn't felt right since the accident, since the night his world had twisted into something unrecognizable. The transformation had changed him in more ways than one, and he had spent every waking hour since trying to suppress the beast within. The familiar road stretched before him, but tonight it felt different. There was an unnatural stillness in the air, as if the night itself was holding its breath. He glanced out the window at the dark forest lining the road, the trees swaying gently in the breeze, their branches like skeletal fingers clawing at the sky. But something else was out there. He could feel it. He tried to focus on the road, but his senses were on high alert. The curse heightened everything: his hearing, his sight, his sense of smell. And tonight the air was thick with the scent of something foul, something dark. It clung to him, invasive, gnawing at the edges of his consciousness. His mind raced back to the nights when it all began, when he'd first woken up in the middle of nowhere, his body battered and bruised, his memories of the transformation a blur. He had hoped it was a nightmare, a fevered dream brought on by exhaustion and grief. But the blood under his fingernails had told a different story. Now, every time the full moon rose, the beast stirred within him. He could feel its hunger, its need for release. But he had learned to fight it, at least for now. James swallowed hard and wiped the sweat from his brow. Tonight was another test of his will, another fight to keep control. The road wound deeper into the forest, and the moon seemed to loom larger above him, its pale light reflecting off the truck's hood. James shifted his gaze to the side mirror, catching a glimpse of something moving just beyond the tree line. A shadow, quick and fleeting. He narrowed his eyes, but the darkness swallowed whatever it was. He told himself it was just an animal, a deer or maybe a coyote. But deep down, he knew better. His instincts, sharpened by the curse, told him something was wrong. Something was watching him. The thought made his skin crawl. James pressed his foot harder on the gas, trying to shake the growing sense of dread that gnawed at his gut. The truck's engine growled in response, picking up speed as the road stretched on. But no matter how fast he drove, he couldn't escape the feeling that something was following him, something just out of sight. Then, out of nowhere, the smell hit him. It was faint at first, but unmistakable, the scent of blood. His heart raced, his pulse quickening as the beast within him stirred. He gritted his teeth, trying to push it down, trying to fight the primal urge that clawed at his insides. But the smell grew stronger, and with it, the hunger. James clenched the wheel tighter, his knuckles white as he fought to maintain control. His eyes darted to the dashboard clock, 11:58. The moon was at its peak, and the pull of the curse was growing stronger by the second. Suddenly, something darted across the road, a flash of movement so fast he barely registered it. James slammed on the brakes, the tires screeching as the truck came to a jarring halt. His heart pounded in his chest as he stared at the spot where the figure had disappeared into the trees. For a long moment, There was nothing but silence. James's breath came in shallow gasps, his mind racing. He couldn't have imagined that. It was real. He had seen something. The beast within him growled in recognition, sensing the prey that had crossed their path. But James fought back the urge, struggling to keep the beast at bay. Slowly, he reached for the door handle, hesitating for just a moment before stepping out into the night. The cold air hit him like a wall, and the forest around him seemed to close in, the trees casting long, twisted shadows across the road. He took a few cautious steps forward, his boots crunching on the gravel. The smell of blood was stronger now, almost overpowering, and his senses were on high alert. Every rustle of leaves, every crack of a branch, made his heart race. Suddenly, a low growl echoed through the trees. James froze, his blood running cold. The growl was deep, guttural, and far too close for comfort. His pulse quickened as he scanned the darkness, but the shadows seemed to shift and twist, hiding whatever was out there. Then he saw it, just beyond the edge of the trees. A pair of glowing eyes. They locked onto him, burning with a feral intensity that sent a chill down his spine. James's heart hammered in his chest as the growl grew louder, more menacing. The beast within him stirred, sensing a rival. Without thinking, James turned and bolted back to the truck, his hands shaking as he fumbled with the door. He threw himself into the driver's seat and slammed the door shut, locking it with trembling fingers. The growl echoed through the night, closer now, as if the creature was stalking him from the shadows. His heart raced as he slammed the truck into gear, the tires squealing as he peeled out onto the road. The headlights cut through the darkness, but the feeling of being watched, of being hunted, clung to him like a second skin. As the truck roared down the highway, James's mind raced. He didn't know what was out there, but he knew one thing for certain. Tonight, the full moon wasn't the only thing to fear.